fight. What's up, folks? This is Justin Garcia, a.k.a. Master Chim, and I am here with the White Fight. White boy Patrick Kelly.
What's up?
And welcome to another episode of The Pressure Project. ThePressureProject.com is our website. Info at ThePressureProject.com is our contact email. You could check out our behind-the-scenes members site at ThePressureProjectMembers.com. Check that out. So, today we're going to talk about a couple things.
Yeah.
The gist of it is, what is the difference between a real fight and an MMA fight?
Yes.
A sport fight.
There's a lot of differences.
A martial arts fight.
Martial arts contest.
It's something that is, I think a lot of the differences between the two of them have sort of crept underneath people's radars. They don't even understand that they don't understand.
Yes.
Because by and large, we live in a society where people aren't fighting every day.
No, they're not.
And even if you want to train yourself in violence, you want to develop a relationship with violence, you go to a sport academy to do it.
Yeah. Sometimes more sport than others.
Right. But you don't go to the mall and just fucking hit people and say, I'm trying to get in some fights today. So
generally not. Some do.
Well, I don't know anybody that does that. So are you trying to be clever? We just started. Are you trying to be fucking clever right now?
I'm trying to be clever.
That's good, you fucking dick. So I wanted to bring this one thing up in this episode. It seemed appropriate. I remember when I had started my my study of violence.
Yeah.
Right? What was it?
Study violence.
Study violence.
Yep. It's good.
The series. What I was doing for a while, this is before the podcast even. You could still find it. It's online somewhere.
We had an episode about it.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
We did. We had so many goddamn episodes.
Yeah, we do.
But
all archived on the member site.
All archived on the member site. So I had gotten a bunch of shit, not to my face, but
generally
from anonymous fucking little, jerk-offs online about one of the things that I had written, which was over 200 street fights I've had.
Yeah.
So I understand it. I sound something like a dick if I just put I've had over 200 street fights without any context. And you don't know who I am, but that wasn't the case. And one of the things that I think underestimated, was how unqualified so many people are to even understand what a street fight is.
Correct.
You know
they think like shirts off, shoes off.
Right.
Like,
it's like two guys standing in a dirt pile around, friends going, get them.
The circle of cars.
Like I've had people, I'll give you one example. I found a good example.
I got a fast one.
I'm in a club.
Yeah.
In New York City. It's got to be 1991, 92.
Okay.
And one of the guys or one of the girls that's in the group that I'm with in this particular club, I don't remember the club. I don't remember what it was. But it was like house music. It was like, I was getting my groove on, And some guy squeezed the ass of one of the girls that was in our group.
Yeah.
Some guy outside of the group.
Understood.
The guys in the group at one point, they all got a chance to squeeze her ass, but different story.
So that's a different night.
So this guy, just basically, grabs her ass. I go up to him. I grab him by the shirt.
Yeah.
And I fucking put him to sleep with a straight right.
Yeah.
That's a street fight.
That's a fight.
I'm 1-0 so far in the club that night.
Yeah.
You're
undefeated in the club.
Right. People have this sporting sort of context that they apply to what they consider a fight. And it's fraudulent. It's really, you're looking at something that came later on, which was the format that allowed us to practice violence safely. Yeah. Right? Because that's what MMA is.
It is.
So when you look at, over 200 fights, when I say something like over 200 fights, what I think of is, and I don't think of 200 specific instances. I really think of how frequently I was fighting, the amount of interactions that I had that would fall under the heading of a fight. I think about how many years I was doing that, And 200 is a very easy number to be comfortable with.
There's a lot of days in the year.
Right. So the whole thing is, it's funny too, because here at the academy, every once in a while I'll get like a childhood friend that'll come and visit.
Yeah.
And they'll either see me on Facebook or I haven't seen them in a while, and they come in and they'll talk to the staff here, right? Because you're mostly up at New Rock.
Yeah.
And Anthony would be a great representative of this thing that happens all the time, where they come in and they start telling stories about me when I was younger. And whenever they leave, Anthony says the whole thing. He says, if I didn't actually hear these people come in unprompted and say these things, I wouldn't believe the stories when you tell me them that these people come and confirm later on.
That's funny.
So I mean,
why wouldn't he believe you?
Well, the whole thing is, obviously he believes me. It's just, when you hear somebody,
there's probably stories that you forgot that they remember.
It's
add
happened,
to the legend.
It's happened on plenty of occasions. I don't consider myself a legend, so don't start that shit. But the whole thing is, I honestly believe if you've grown up in any violent environment, and you were on the violent end of the participants in that environment, of which I do consider myself to have been, saying that you've gotten to 200 fights, that's really not a big deal.
It's not.
It's really not when you break it down. So
it's a big number to the uninitiated.
Well, that's the whole thing. There are some people. I remember Dave Kovar.
Dave
Kovar, martial artist.
Yeah.
Very respectable martial artist. I love the guy. The guy's a great dude. I remember when I met him, he and I were talking, and I met him at some business event, and super cool dude, nice guy. Jiu-jitsu black belt in a bunch of different arts, and very well trained. Like, the guy's like 50 years old or in his 50s, I think, and phenomenal shape. And the thing, one of the first things he said to me when talking about, I don't know if we were talking about MMA or whatever the case was, he says, "Listen, I grew up in Southern California," and he was like, "I've never gotten into a fight in my life."
Yeah.
And he says it like right out in the open.
Sure.
Now, he trains in violence. He's very capable, but he just happened to have a life that didn't have him, enter into. It's no slight on him.
Yeah,
because
correct.
he prepares, he trains every single day, and has the majority of his life. So it's very normal for there to be somebody who just doesn't relate, to the idea, the notion of having over 200 fights. What the actual number is for me, I don't know. Maybe
could be more.
Maybe it's 150. Maybe it's 350.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Maybe it's 1 million.
Right? Maybe it's 1 billion.
Yeah.
The guys here, if you've been here long enough, you've seen me, knock people on their asses on multiple occasions. And this is the
allegedly,
verbally.
Yeah.
And this is the grown up family man, responsible business owner that's still, I'm in the Bronx.
Yeah.
I don't tolerate anybody's shit. I never have actively looked to bully somebody.
No.
I've never looked to just physically, intimidate somebody or harm somebody
just because you can.
Because I thought I could.
Yeah,
that's fucking weak. I've always thought it was weak.
No. Usually people request it.
Well, I remember one of my friends came in, had to be a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking. Anthony was there, and he's on Facebook. I'm gonna give him a shout out. TEE, first name ESS. His name's Mikey. But
okay.
Who the hell knows? But great dude. Known him forever. And he said, yeah, Justin, if there was a crowd there, Justin would look at the biggest dude and say, I'm going to go start a fight with that guy.
Yeah.
And that's who I was. The guy who thought he was tough in a group that was outside of my tribe. That was the guy.
Yeah. Which makes sense.
But it's just, it's what I guess my coping mechanism in my neighborhood growing up, that's what mine happened to be.
Well, the people who have an adverse reaction to hearing over 200 fights, a lot of the times, like we said, they never have, it seems ridiculous to them because they've never done it.
Right.
So they have, and also it makes them feel inferior. So anytime people feel inferior, they're
working out a lot of shit.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going through a lot of stuff.
And another component, which we're going to develop today or deal with today, is they don't understand what that means.
They don't.
They're thinking of this I'll meet you at 3:00. We'll agree
Yeah.
to meet here.
3:00 high.
We're gonna,
Great move.
we're gonna put our bags down. We're going to roll up our sleeves. We're going to square off, and we're going to settle our score.
Yes.
They think that's a fight, and it couldn't be further from the truth.
Fisticuffs.
That's a fight. Of all my fights, that's maybe 5% of them.
Yeah.
There are 5% of them. Usually, it's over in 1 or 2 swings. Usually just one.
Yeah.
And it's, I'm the guy that's going to swing first every single time.
Every single
The
time.
criteria for engaging in a fight is not limited to he swung at me first.
Yeah. And same with the students. Like we had a family come into the school recently, and they were signing up their daughter, and they said, I tell her always let them throw the first punch. And I told them, and they're brand new, but I explained to them, like, so you want your daughter to be injured. That's your goal.
Right.
Let her, she gets hit once. Maybe that's the last. What if she's unconscious? Now she's in the hospital. Never take the first punch.
The easy way to look at it to really illustrate how ridiculous that is just the ante.
Yeah, take the first bullet.
Guns. Yeah, guns. Shoot. Let him shoot at you first. And you look at the police, all the shit they get into. It's for these same reasons that people don't understand what violence actually is.
They don't get it.
The guy was running at him with a knife. You didn't have to shoot him.
Yes, he did.
That's exactly why you shoot somebody.
You have to let him stab you first in the face. Then you can shoot him.
And people just don't get that.
They don't at all. Same thing with fighting. You don't want to get punched, and that makes you fight.
Right. It's ridiculous because that punch, as soon as you lose consciousness, you're lucky if you don't wake up pregnant.
Yeah, pretty much. Our kids, listen, throw the first punch every single time.
Listen, our kids are not going to be victims of this weak thinking at all.
Correct.
Ever. So
anyway.
What we decided to do.
Yes.
A list. We
lists.
do well
Lists are
with
good.
Lists. Lists are good.
Yeah.
They organize the information. They give you specific talking points that can be referenced later on.
Correct. I've read this list. I will not go ahead.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
So the top 10 ways.
Yeah.
Right? Top 10 ways MMA is different from a real fight.
Yeah. Just a list, not in any particular.
Not in any particular order.
Yeah.
Not in any particular order. Although number 10 is probably the most significant.
Yeah. Number 10 is pretty good.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
But let's start off with number 1.
Okay.
Number 1, gloves protect hands.
Yeah.
Allowing for punch-heavy fighting.
Correct.
So, now, if you are in an actual street fight with somebody, and you'll see every once in a while, you'll see like videos of the bare knuckle fighters.
Yeah,
right?
those are
like
good.
Crazy Irishman.
He's heading and biting. He's heading and biting.
Right.
That's my favorite one.
Cue Crazy Irishman, bare knuckle fighter soundboard.
Yeah.
Right. So, if you look at them, it's easy to say, well, look, they're not, using gloves or anything, and they're not getting into trouble. And I would answer that or respond to that by saying a lot of them do wrap their hands.
Yeah.
And they're having a boxing match.
They are.
They're not having a real fight.
Yeah, there's no ground, there's no headbutts, there's no biting.
Right. There's no heading and biting.
No heading and biting.
But but the
no
thing
clinch
is,
either. They don't even not even allowed to clinch.
Absolutely right. So if you're in an MMA match and you have your hands wrapped, you're the one that wraps our fighters' hands.
I do.
And your hands are wrapped and you have gloves on them. They're protected. They're protected from breaking.
And people get that confused. They think the hand wraps increase the power of the punch.
Right. Well, it can increase.
Of course, it can.
It's not made for that. It's made to protect the hand because you want to be able to participate in MMA consistently over a length of time.
There's a 5-round fight. You don't want your hand broken in the first punch,
and you don't want to get injured in training every day.
Correct.
So the whole thing is with gloves, you really have a misrepresentation in terms of what strategy is going to work between two individuals in a real fight. Because you can almost say, and this is a very generalized application, but I think it works conceptually, just like we don't have weapons in MMA.
True.
Having gloves has the same type of effect.
Correct.
And that it skews the reality of the techniques being used. So a knife would be a force multiplier,
Correct.
right? If 10 units of force punching this way, but if I have a knife, the 10 units turns into 100 units of force. It's a force multiplier. Well, allowing myself to not be limited to the vulnerability or frailty of my hand when I'm punching over the course of a fight is a force multiplier, right?
Yeah.
Because it's preventing the reduction of force, right?
Correct.
Sense,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
So number one, gloves protect hands, allowing for punch-heavy fighting. That's number one, why MMA is different from a real fight.
Yes.
Number two, a time limit allows for the pacing of effort, including sprinting energy at key times in an MMA match.
Yeah.
So I know if I have to train for 5 minutes, I'm training to allow myself to recover after those 5 minutes, but during those 5 minutes to be able to ramp it up, redline it, if you will, at certain key points, because I know I only have a limited amount of time to work. A similar application are wrestlers.
Yeah.
Who you'll find when a lot of wrestlers who are used to 2-minute rounds, right? 2-minute rounds in a wrestling match are going to MMA and they go to that 5-minute mark and they've been wrestling their whole lives. So they're used to that 2-3 minute energy output, but now they're put in a context where it's a 5-minute.
Yeah.
And you see wrestlers gas all the time later on in the fight.
Yeah.
So it's something that is skewed compared to a real fight. Now, Hickson Gracie, paraphrasing one of his quotes, is, if you're not able to do your jiu-jitsu for an hour, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
So that whole idea of being able to go as long as you need to go is lost in MMA.
It is.
Because MMA is a sprinter's game. So I remember, I recall this. I brought this up the other day on one of the live Facebook things I did. The movie Fresh.
Yeah, Fresh,
awesome movie.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
Samuel Jackson. The kid's father, lives in like a trailer. Huge chess fan, and he's talking about the great grandmasters of chess, and he's Kasparov and Bobby Fischer and all these guys, and he says, "Put any one of their asses on the clock, and I'll chew them up."
Yeah, right? It's a good line.
He says, they're great, they're geniuses, they'll beat me every day of the week, but put their asses on the clock and I will chew them up. I think he says chew them up, but whatever. So the whole notion is, when there's a time limit on your productivity or your execution of techniques, it's different. It changes everything.
Even like at the end of a round, the 10-second mark, in my first fight, first round, I remember I heard the 10-second bell. I took him down like right then on purpose.
Right.
Just to get that last exclamation point.
Right.
Hit that takedown at the last.
And that's the strategy, right? Because we're trying to win a game when we're doing MMA, right? So, number 3, a referee represents a safety net that isn't present in a real fight.
Yeah.
So I've had fights where I give you my word, I thought I might die today.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is the day that I die. I've been in altercations. I remember one, it was on Jerome Avenue and Bedford Park Boulevard. I had gotten into a fight with a couple of kids from another high school. And at the time, I went to Bronx High School of Science.
Yes.
Which is like the nerd school. Right?
Yeah.
So I hung out with nerds. There were a couple of kids that were squared away, but for the most part, they were all nerdy type dudes. And I was known as the guy who used to fight.
Who handled things.
Right. So I remember getting into a fight and not really making sure that I had people with me when I initiated this fight.
Yeah.
And found myself in a situation where I'm fighting with one guy and they're allowing it to stay a one-on-one fight, but he has 5 or 6 of his buddies there.
Yeah. So if it goes badly for him.
If it goes badly, like my head's going to... Luckily, transit cops came down because right by a train station, they wound up breaking it up.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, thank goodness. But the whole thing is, when you have a referee, the cop in that situation was almost a referee.
Yeah, almost a referee,
When you have the referee, he makes sure that even though, there's a great potential for being harmed, being injured in a fight, he's there to make sure it doesn't escalate beyond the normal probability of that injury
Correct.
risk, right? He makes sure that, the guy doesn't throw the extra, 10 punches. The guy is following the rules. The guy kicks you in the nuts. The ref intercedes. There's so many things that
grabbing the fence,
right? That the
knee
ref
on the
does,
ground.
to give you this safety net. You know that you're not really being locked in a cage with somebody. It's you, somebody else, and the other guy.
It's not Thunderdome,
right?
Yeah, true.
So number 4, and this is an important one. The chess match metaphor is a flawed strategy in a real fight. There should be no taking turns.
Correct.
Right? So this idea of a fair fight implies rules.
It does.
One of the biggest things involving rules that people sort of use their own filters to place upon a fight is this idea of we both get to go.
Yeah.
We're going to sit there. And how is this represented in a fight? By squaring off with somebody.
Yeah, 100%.
Put your hands up. Put them up.
You're in a fight
Stand
now.
up. I'll meet you outside.
Yeah, all that.
This idea of we're both going to take turns. We're both going to be in a position where we're allowed to exchange.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a chance.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a chance. I knock you on the ass. I'm going to let you stand up. So we can do it again. And it's fraudulent, right?
It is, yeah.
But when we think of like with jiu-jitsu, I've said this on occasion, probably not recently as much as I used to back in the day. This isn't chess.
No.
This isn't chess. Chess, he gets to go, then I get to go, then he gets to go, and I get to go. And I have to beat him within this mindset or framework that we get to exchange moves. That's how you win at chess.
Yeah.
Show me the chess game where you get to move 5 times in a row. Well, now I'll start likening it to the fighting, mindset I want my guys to have. All right. So I don't like the chess metaphor for fighting. I understand what they're trying to convey in terms of strategy and investment moves, right? Setting people up.
Yeah, chess, can be put in other categories as far as, but not a one-on-one really situation.
Yeah, absolutely right. So the whole thing is, I don't like the metaphor for a real fight. Whereas with MMA, it fits a lot sooner, on the scale.
Unless your chess metaphor is me and you outside, stand up. The guy, as he goes to stand up, you hit him. Because your first move was to tell him to stand up. His move was to stand up and you hit him as he's standing up. That's chess.
Checkmate.
That's checkmate. Like that chess metaphor works if that's what you're doing. But that's a whole nother. That's not what we're talking about.
So that was number 4.
Yeah.
Number 5, entertainment can win an MMA match.
Yeah.
A real fight should be indifferent to its appearance.
Correct.
So one of my guys, Paul, not his last fight where he finished his opponent, but the fight prior to that, he lost a split decision. And the reason he lost a split decision is because the other gentleman, in my opinion, obviously there are judges who may disagree with me, but in my opinion, he didn't show enough. He had control of the whole fight. He was never in any jeopardy of losing or anything of that nature, but he wasn't as entertaining as the other guy was. The other guy was a little bit flashier, looked a little bit more aggressive, but everything that Paul did in his fight was very low key and very uneventful and very unimpressive to the naked eye.
Aside from dominating.
Right, position.
Dominating position. Yeah.
If you have somebody who drags somebody slowly to the floor, but the other guy's throwing shots here and there and everything, but he's not doing anything that could, let him, that punch that he throws, let him throw it 1,000 times. Nothing's going to happen to Paul. Then it's a bullshit punch. But let somebody take you down 1,000 times, see how the fight goes then,
100%, yeah.
And the whole thing is, it's a sport. So the entertainment aspect, i.e. the appearance, impressing judges through appearance is valid in MMA.
Yeah.
In an actual fight, I remember one time I was fighting a kid from Clinton High School, and I had him in a headlock, and we were on a handball court. Handball court, Clinton High School. I had this kid in a headlock, and I was driving him into the wall. I was in like a scarf hold position, and I was punching him in his face with my other hand. And I didn't know any jiu-jitsu or anything, but I remember holding his shirt. Like, so I had him in a headlock, and I was holding his shirt.
See, you had gi grips already.
Grip. I had that gi grip, right?
That's awesome.
I remember hitting him. And there was this one fucking girl who I wanted to kick her in her head because she's in my face, obviously friends with the kid throwing a beating, and she's yelling, "Stop fighting like a faggot. Stand up and fight like a man."
Shut that bitch up before I come over there and start her head.
Shut that cunt's mouth. So it's it was annoying.
Yeah.
Number one, but you see how she doesn't understand what's happening.
Yeah.
Now it's her friend, so she's trying to whatever. She was really trying to motivate the guys who are watching the fight to stand us up or to get me off of him.
Yeah.
But like I've been in enough fights at that point to know, like, no, I'm winning.
Yeah.
Like this guy's going to go unconscious or he's going to be retarded in about 20 seconds for me hitting him like this.
Yeah.
Like I'm good right now.
Yeah. I don't have to move.
Like I'm all right.
This might be boring to watch, but it's fun for me.
Right. It's like the lion. Yeah. I have the neck.
Yeah. No, it's like I'm good.
He's jumping a low, but it's all right. I have the neck.
Yeah.
I'm just gotta wait it out.
It's done. It's over. It's okay. It's over.
It's done. It's
done.
over. Sit down. It's all right. It's over.
Yeah.
So, when you have somebody who in a real fight is looking at the entertainment value.
Yeah.
Usually, they may not even realize it, but what they're trying to do is use some sort of psychology.
Yeah.
They're trying
look busy,
to
score points.
Busy, trying to go all peacock,
Yeah.
But I'm talking about a real fight. There's no.
Well, I'm saying like in an MMA fight, look busy, score points is never something someone would say in a real fight.
And that's the thing. But in a real fight, even if they don't have an MMA perspective, from which they're working, all of that entertainment is really just trying to feed psychologically. I just got finished watching again the movie Serenity. Right?
Yeah, it's good.
And
so you finished Firefly.
Yeah, I can't believe it. One season.
Oh, legit show.
Disgusting that
I know.
One season. Terrible. I don't want to get upset. So
I'm a leaf on the wind.
So in the movie, the bounty hunter, the black guy says at one point, and he goes, you need to realize you can't make me mad.
Yeah.
It's like, stop trying to make me mad. You're wasting time. You're not
correct.
You're not going to get me mad. But that's what that entertainment in a real fight actually is. It's trying to elicit some sort of receiver response.
Correct.
From the other guy. But whereas in an MMA fight, done the right way, done physically, you can win rounds like that.
You can, yeah. At least to some judges.
Right. So that was number 5.
Yes.
Number 6, and we alluded to this somewhat before, but to make it an official way, only MMA matches start on the bell.
Yeah.
A real fight should be over before it's even begun.
100%. Yeah.
Some guy slapped my wife. No, this isn't a real story. I'm just making an example. Nobody slapped my wife.
We wouldn't be talking about that.
Right? Some guy slaps my wife.
Yeah.
And she tells me who it is. She describes him. I go into a restaurant and I see the guy having dinner.
Yes.
I'm probably going to take a bat to his head, figuratively speaking.
Figuratively, the figurative bat.
While he's about to put the ladle of warm soup to his mouth, and he's stooped over. That's what he's getting hit. And he's getting hit into oblivion.
Yeah.
He lost. Yes. I win.
Yeah.
I win, you lose.
1-0.
1 up, right?
Yeah.
Undefeated.
Yeah.
So, this whole notion that, it's supposed to start like, you ready? Ready.
I challenge you to do it.
Ready, set, go. Ding.
Yeah, no.
Like, that is sport, right? It's funny you mentioned duel.
Depending on what kind of bat, though, it might make a ding. Depends on what you're going for.
When, when you mentioned dueling, that is now a midpoint, right? It's a midpoint in that it does have structure and rules and the protocols that you need to follow to abide by, calling it or maintaining the identity of a duel. but you could actually lose your life
Yeah.
on top of it, right? So a midpoint, but still not representative of reality, of a real fight, But it's good to mention it because you have a dire consequence.
Yeah.
But it's still not representative of reality.
No, because there's an agreed upon time and place.
Right.
Rules.
Just because the bet, is for everything.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that it's not a sport, right?
Gangs in New York.
Gangs in New York.
Bricks, bats, knives. Pistols? No. Good boy. That's a good movie.
Very good movie.
Yeah.
So only MMA matches start on a bell. A real fight should be over before it's begun. And that was number 6. Number 7. The rules of MMA favor the repetition and installation of a subset of techniques, many of which are far from the most powerful ones available.
Yeah.
So if you have to compete in MMA, you get good by way of training at MMA moves.
Correct.
There was a time in MMA where you were allowed to headbutt. There are still some promotions where you could kick a downed opponent in the head.
Those are fun.
And the thing is, the people that compete in those promotions practice those moves.
They do. Yeah.
In whatever safe capacity they could rep it in their training, they need to practice those moves. So what happens is, when you take the guy who's been, I'll give you a better example. A lot of my students, I don't have fight amateur in New Jersey.
Correct.
Or haven't. Things have changed recently.
Yeah, they have.
But there was a spell where I wasn't bringing my guys to fight amateur in New Jersey. And the only reason is because I love the New Jersey promotions and the people involved with MMA in New Jersey.
Yeah, New Jersey has a solid commission.
Right. But the one thing that had me do that was the rules under which my fighters were allowed to fight. So in amateur, there wasn't a rule set that allowed fighters to strike each other on the ground.
Correct.
So what you would wind up having was bad kickboxing on the feet, followed by, jiu-jitsu with body punches.
Yeah.
With big ass gloves, right? Yeah. And it wasn't, I felt,
shin guards.
Right. I felt it was too far away from, the leap from amateur with those rules to a pro, for me to continuously have my guys fight there. So I opted for a lot of the amateur promotions here in New York, which allowed a sort of distinction between beginner amateur and advanced amateur.
Yeah.
And advanced amateur, you're allowed to strike in the face on the ground.
On the ground, yeah. So
the whole thing is, when I have guys that are fighting under those rules, I'm able to have them train those rules every day in training.
Yeah, hitting someone on the face on the ground.
It's significant.
Very significant.
If you think about that little, illustration of the differences in between rules and how it affects training, well, imagine differences between training for an MMA match and training for a street corner.
Yeah.
Where are the headbutts? Where are the eye gouges, the groin shots?
Yeah. Small digit manipulation.
Right.
Fingers.
Right. Small digit manipulation. Where are the scratches? Where are the ear pulls?
Yeah.
The bites.
Grabbing someone's esophagus.
All the
what?
Dalton, thought you'd be bigger. So
best closer in the business.
The whole notion that I'm preparing for an MMA match and therefore I am able to effectively fight in a street corner. Well, that might be the case, but understand, all things being equal, if I make a carbon copy of you,
yeah,
and you still compete or train rather every day under MMA rules, and I take that carbon copy of you and I allow him to train everything, you're done for.
Yeah.
You're done for.
Well, you take the average sport BJJ guy, put him in a room with one of our guys and say, listen, only one of you makes it out alive. Right. I'm putting our money on our guy.
And, I've had those discussions, arguments too, on occasion with other school owners, where, they're looking at, they're asking me how many tournaments do your purple belts usually win? And I understand what they're trying to illustrate. And before I even answer, because I got to feed, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, how many purple belts do you have that you'd be willing to put in a cage with one of my purple belts right now?
Yeah.
Like, show me that list of guys.
Yeah.
And then I'll ask him,
death.
and then I'll ask him, are these the same guys that win your tournaments?
Yeah.
Oh, two different guys.
Yeah.
You want the nut job purple belt that, grew up fighting in fucking Newark his whole life.
Yeah.
That's the guy you put, but it's not the guy that's winning tournaments. So when we talk about what's realistic, we have to practice everything, or we have to practice a skill set that allows us to be effective when everything is allowed.
Correct. Yeah.
So I'm not going to say we have to practice everything, but we have to practice in a situation or a format where everything is permitted.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So I remember when I first started teaching a kids program, taking the back, right? We have the backpack,
yeah,
harness and hooks.
Yep.
And I would tell them to put their head down. And it was a constant issue where they would never keep their head down. But sure as shit, you have them roll enough and they get smacked in the mouth by somebody's head.
Yeah.
And they never have their head up again.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, this is now the feedback of what happens in reality that you need to concern yourself with.
100%.
So in fighting, I've been headbutted, I've been hit with weapons, I've been jumped, I've been scratched, and when you're expecting all of those things to happen at any given moment, you're able to sort of operate more effectively.
Correct.
I feel.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. So that was number 7. Number 8. Scanning isn't necessary in an MMA fight, aside from tracking time and maybe cage position.
Yeah, 100%. You don't need to look around.
You don't need to look around. Is he pulling out a knife? Is his boy going to advance?
Yeah.
Are there police coming?
Yeah, sure.
There are all these things that happen in a real fight that are really designed to respect the fact that you are in the real world.
Correct.
Anything can happen. Are you fighting in the street and a car is coming? Like all these
things. Are you on
things,
a train platform?
Right. All these things need to happen. I got into a fight once on a train platform. Scary shit. Because when I tell you, I would tell you, both of us, me and the guy that I was fighting, you could tell neither one of us, we almost installed rules.
You were like,
I'm not going to throw you off. You're not going to throw me off.
Yeah.
We're not going to go. So we had
that's
this,
a deadly weapon just waiting to be used.
We had this pseudo fight.
Yeah. That
we almost allowed ourselves to be separated. Under normal circumstances, I don't think either of us would have been so, eager to.
But you weren't willing to throw each other on the train.
I was like, I don't want to fucking die today, and I don't want to kill this guy today.
Yeah. I mean, that's valid,
If I'm totally ignoring my surroundings, maybe that doesn't happen. Maybe, I wind up killing him or I wind up fucking falling off the damn platform. But these aren't things you got to worry about in MMA.
No.
Right? Not things you have to worry about.
Not at all.
Right. So scanning isn't a necessity.
No.
So what do you do in a doo-doo? You said doo-doo. What you do...
that reminds me. They had Beavis and Butthead commentating on MMA.
Oh, yeah.
It was really funny.
Oh, well, they're hilarious.
It was really funny.
A few things are funnier than a good Beavis and Butthead skit.
This one was good.
So in MMA, you do track time. Right?
Of course, yeah.
And the more experienced you are, the more you have an awareness of that.
Correct.
Obviously, a good corner is going to keep you, tuned in.
Yeah.
We have our own a coded communication,
which we'll reveal to you right now.
It is right, but time is something you track in cage position.
Yeah. It's ironic that all of the guys end up right in front of us almost every single fight.
And
it's so strange. How does that happen?
And people look at that and they it's like, oh man, they're so fortunate.
They're so lucky. Look at all the luck.
Obviously, it's by design, and it's certainly not exclusive to us. Good camps know that you want your fighter right in front of you. But you do a different double leg when you're in the middle of the cage as opposed to your opponent's back up against the cage.
Of course.
Different techniques you do. If the guy's on his back and his head's touching the cage, you're not going to try and mount because you don't have space to actively, really take advantage of the position. So they're having an awareness is certainly present in MMA.
Sure, but it's very, very,
very, very limited,
Yeah.
in its scope as opposed to a real fight.
yes.
Right?
Is there glass on the floor? It's not something you
Right.
need to worry about.
Right.
And if it is, you're having some strange MMA fight. Yeah.
Number 9.
Number 9.
There are no breaks to refresh a combatant in a real fight.
No.
There are no breaks. You don't have your 5-minute time, go back, act civil to one another, get up, sometimes help the guy up,
Yeah.
right, that you're fighting. You're just trying to murder 3 seconds before that.
Shaking hands, touching gloves.
Sit on the bench, get some water, get some ice,
Get some advice.
Have somebody look at you. It's
Cut man comes in.
It's all for entertainment.
Of course.
Right? Because think about it. Like, you look at the early UFCs. I loved, and maybe it's because I grew up fighting and I understand what's happening to more of a degree than the average listener was or viewer was. I loved when they got exhausted and they're still trying to fuck each other up.
Yeah.
But they now have to factor in their fatigue.
Yeah.
And you see them become much more gun shy. You see them reduce the number of techniques they're doing. You see them worry more about position. Start to invest in the things that pay more dividends.
Yeah.
Rather than taking chances like they would when they were fresh at the beginning of the fight.
And then that big burst of fury, like if they get their win back.
Well, they would only sprint through open doors.
Correct.
And that's the thing. When you have a break in between, you could afford to try and break some doors down.
Yeah.
You know
there's going to be a break.
Right. When there's no time limit, you only sprint through open doors.
Yeah.
Right. So that's number 9. Right. It's no breaks.
Correct.
I didn't ever have a break in my fights. Because number 1, I only had 2 fights. Right.
Yeah.
I talk so much shit. Like I say, do you ever fight MMA? Yeah, I'm undefeated. I was undefeated. I had 2 fights. I won.
2 fights. You won both first round.
Right. So which is great. But I never got to sit in the corner in between rounds.
No.
Not that I really wanted to, but just the way it worked out. So number 10.
Number 10.
And this now, it's the final part of our list, and it references the Warrior Continuum somewhat. I'll explain it.
Yeah.
So if you don't, know what the Warrior Continuum is, you still get it.
The bare minimum, you've had part 1.
Right.
Right.
But MMA is purely a limited stage 3 activity.
Yeah.
So in the Warrior Continuum stage 3, it's one-on-one unarmed combat.
Correct.
So whatever the set of techniques that are involved in stage 3 in its entirety, MMA is a subset of those moves.
Correct.
Right? Because there aren't headbutts, there aren't all the rules of MMA.
Fish hooks.
Fish hooks. Who's ever fish hooked somebody? I'm never looking to put my fucking finger in somebody's mouth when I'm fighting.
Pretty good. It works pretty good.
So the idea of it just being stage 3 is bad enough, but it is also a subset of stage 3.
Yeah, it's rules.
Not only is it one-on-one and unarmed, but it is also restricted by rules and regulations.
Correct.
So when we look beyond stage 3, then, well, what is not present in an MMA fight compared to a real fight? Weapons.
Yeah.
Groups. Stage 5 elements. So stage 5 elements is now, you getting into a fight with some big scary dude and your kid's there.
Yeah, that changes everything.
And if I don't win this fight, like, I have to protect a third party.
Yeah.
So none of those things do you have to worry about in an MMA fight.
No,
if you start to get tired, you could pace yourself. You could, you start to get tired and your kid's life is on the line. Well, you have other things to be concerned about. So number 10 was that it's purely a limited stage 3 activity.
Yeah.
Right. So to summarize, with the list, what we're trying to really flesh out is that MMA is a great thing to look at as a sport.
Yeah.
Some people love watching tennis. I enjoy a good tennis match. Some people enjoy watching basketball, football in the cases. So in that context, MMA fits the bill.
Yeah.
In that context, right? From that perspective. But in terms of giving you a realistic representation of what a fight is, It's probably the best thing available, but it is still so far from reality that you do yourself a disservice to forget that.
Yeah. We made that meme a long time ago where the guy has the gun out. Dude has his hands up. He's like, no, you can't mug me. I need 8 weeks to train for this.
Give me 8 weeks to train.
Give me 8 weeks to train. I'll be back.
Right.
It's like, no, it's not real.
Right. It's not the way it happens.
No.
So, I think that, most people will say, oh, yeah, well, obviously it's not a real fight. But, I don't think you're really giving it the attention it deserves because I see all the time, and we'll get to it, people that just illustrate their lack of understanding.
Yeah.
That this is not reality.
Now, the converse of that is where it bleeds into reality, like the guy getting choked and tapping.
And there you just jump to the unicorn.
That's not the unicorn, is it?
You did so well. You said you read the whole list.
I did read that, but
that was my story for that.
Oh, it doesn't say that. I thought that was a different application of what you wrote there. Anyway, so the pressure player.
Fucking worst. Oh, was that close?
I was that close. I almost made it.
Fucking
Listen, it
wouldn't
robot.
Wouldn't need to upgrade his software.
It wouldn't be any fun if I made it.
It's like an old map. It's like, where's this road?
That's not accurate. My maps are updated.
So anyway, the pressure player. So now this pressure player is a gentleman that I had heard of before. That was just suggested by one of the listeners, saying this guy's got to be a pressure player.
Yeah.
Now I think that it fits.
It does fit
in this episode's subject.
It fits 100%.
And the guy's name is Simo Haya.
Yes.
Haya. How you doing?
How you doing?
How you doing? And he's a Finnish marksman who is known by the Red Army, by the Soviets, as White Death.
Yes.
Fucking awesome. White Death.
Blanco
You got to do more shit so we can call you White Death.
I want to be White Death.
Because right now, the fact that you blew that fucking unicorn, you're the white pain in the ass right now.
Blanco Muerte.
Just stop.
I want to be, what?
Stop.
Okay.
So, you don't speak Spanish yet.
Not yet. I'm working.
You still have to ask your Mexican wife how to say this stuff.
Yeah.
Right? You think you got enough downloaded to be able to figure it out. It's terrible.
I got decent pronunciation.
All right. So, you're not able to assess your own pronunciation.
I was told that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, White Death.
White Death.
So what he did, all that he did was kill over 500 men.
No way.
It's the highest recorded number of confirmed snipers in any major war. And this man was an absolute terror.
Yeah.
Now, quoting him, he said, I only did my duty and what I was told to do as well as I could. So humble man, incredible marksman, was only 5'3".
Yeah. Wolverine.
5'3", killed over 500 men with a very old school rifle, by the way. Iron sights, not some high-end, high-powered shit we got nowadays.
No.
Just incredible. There was, at one point in the war, in the conflict, I think he got shot in his face.
Oh, really?
And he was out for a spell, then came right back,
What doesn't kill you?
Like, you talk about a real fight. Well, here's somebody that understood both ends of it.
Yeah.
Because, one of the things that snipers, would get shit about was that they weren't on the ground grabbing people, engaging.
Yeah, sure.
But here's a guy who just took himself out of that completely because he took a round to the face.
He did.
And continued to do his job. So White Death is the man.
100%.
500 people.
505.
Incredible.
Yeah. He got to 500. He was like, what's 5 more? It's like, yeah. And those are pretty good fights.
What are you doing today? Shooting people.
Just shooting people.
Incredible.
Yeah.
5'3". Awesome.
Yeah.
So the unicorn.
The unicorn. What is the unicorn? I don't know what it is.
So I think that I'm going to take the blame for it.
Okay.
Right, I'm going to take the blame.
No.
No, I'm taking the blame. It's my fault.
It's my fault.
It's my fault. Because I misnamed it, apparently. Like the name, I was trying to figure out how do I name this category of people. But I failed, obviously. Because I'm a failure today with this one particular thing. MMA fan fighters.
Okay.
Okay. So these are MMA fans who think they know how to fight.
Oh.
There was one time
Yeah.
where this guy
Yeah.
got into a fight.
Correct.
This is what Pat was talking about before.
It is.
Still applies.
It does. Just later.
10 minutes later.
Just 10 minutes later, it applies.
This guy gets into a fight, right?
Older gentleman.
Older guys fight like a teenager.
Yeah, 18 years old,
right?
probably 19.
And you could tell the teenager trains.
Yep.
And this is the difference. You could tell the teenager trained. You could tell the older guy watched MMA.
Correct.
So this guy is getting his ass kicked by this teenager. And he gets put in a choke and he tries to tap.
Yeah.
It's like there's no tapping in a fucking fight.
And he says that. The teenager says it. The other guy's like, I tap, bro. He's like, there's no fucking tapping.
But this is what happens when you have somebody who sees that and just doesn't fucking respect reality.
Yeah.
I got a good example of this. I think I told you about this before. This girl I used to know.
Okay.
When I was younger. This girl I used to
Yep.
How guilty does that sound?
You know.
I'm trying to say it like it's no big deal. It's girl. It's like it's guilty. An ex-girlfriend, right?
Sure.
When I was much younger. She used to do Tai Bo.
Tai Bo.
Billy Blanks, this fucking guy on the TV all the time, doing the kicking and
With
doing
the
that
little
whole
thing.
Yeah. She thought she knew how to fight.
Oh, no.
One time she almost gets into it, some department store. I'm not there. She comes back, she tells me the story. And she said, I almost fucked this girl up. So I said, fuck this girl up.
What?
You've never been in a fight in your life. What are you going to fuck up with? What are you, crazy? I was going to hit her, and she started talking about the Tai Bo moves. It's like, oh my God.
That's amazing.
You were going to get your fucking ass kicked. But again, this is somebody who doesn't understand the reality of what it is that they're doing.
Do you even MMA, bro?
So, and this is the thing. This is the added vulnerability that this type of mindset provides, in that you have people who not only are limited to doing the moves they've been exposed to in an MMA paradigm, but there's also a sense of expectation of what the other side's going to do in a conflict.
That's correct. Yeah.
You know, I think the majority of fights that I've had, it really wasn't the MMA era. You know, so
true.
I didn't have a lot of the guys. What I'd get a lot of is, you know, why are you on the ground? Because I still wrestled. Like I'm 5'5", strong as fuck. I was a wrestler. Like everybody I'd take down if I could. Yeah. Hold them down and beat them while they're on the floor. So I got a lot of them. Why don't you stand up and fight like a man? Why don't you stand like I got that shit. But I didn't really get the MMA guy, you know, who was talking about no headbutts, bro. No, like I headbutt as many times as I can. Yeah. It means I get to hold you with my two hands, position your face, and try and drive my skull through your face.
Another good example, the basketball court fight.
Which one?
The one with the heel hook. You'll never play basketball again, bro.
Oh, you're talking about a video. I'm talking about one of my basketball fights. Yeah. All right.
No.
I got a couple of basketball
I'm sure you do. No, I'm talking about the video where the guy gets the guy in a heel hook. And he's like, I'll crank it, bro. You'll never play basketball again. Right. It's like, what kind of fight is that? That's silly.
But that's what it is. You have a very non-violent altercation. Yeah. And the funny thing is, but the black guy, you know, if he got the upper hand, he would have pummeled that dude to death. Yeah. But it's like, yeah, you're right, bro. You know, tap, you got it.
You got it.
These are the rules you want to play by. All right. No, I don't get my knee torn apart, you know. But just fraudulent by nature.
It is. Which is also why the way we teach people things, they're not pulling guard. They're not doing things that are going to set them up for failure in the grand scheme of things. Right. You know what I mean? Oh, in the tournament, get to the position you're the most comfortable in. You should be the most comfortable on top, winning on top.
I remember when I first started training jiu-jitsu, basketball fight. Right? Yeah. This is in...
Flying Triangle.
This in Coyne Park on McLean Avenue in Yonkers. Right? So any of my old buddies, some of you may have been here for this. Big Irish dude. Right?
Big Irish guy.
Not a guy that frequents the park. I was pretty much a regular at the park.
Not a guy who frequents the park?
What does that mean?
It's just racist. Because he's a big white Irish guy.
Well, no, this is actually an Irish neighborhood.
I'm just making a joke.
Anyway. I thought you were making... I'm so paranoid about being called a homosexual. I thought you were making like a gay joke.
No.
like like the truck stop.
That's
like,
fun. I didn't even connect those dots.
That's how bad your fucking reference was.
Yeah.
I didn't even know where you were going with the joke. Anyway,
Understood.
So that's my own shit I got to deal with, right? My own fucking filter.
Listen, pressure project. Working through shit.
So I'm playing basketball, and there's this guy. He's got a couple of friends of his, and there's a couple other guys who know me, from the park.
Yeah.
And this guy, obnoxious dude, and if anybody's ever played basketball in a park, you know that there are arguments all the time over calls and stuff like that. And this particular guy called. I think maybe I called foul, or he probably called foul. I very rarely called foul. And he called foul, and I made a comment like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Like, he was like the biggest guy in the court. Like, what are you complaining about?
Yeah, like who hurt you?
Should we hire some refs, to fucking ref the game so you're safe?
So your safety is looked after.
So whatever the case was, he said something to me, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but I'm pretty quick with it, right?
Yeah.
So I had everyone laughing at him in a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to snap back and forth. So, like,
he's going to lose that
don't
battle.
snap gate. Like, you're a fucking Irish guy from Yonkers. Like, you're not beating me in a snap battle, which is like insults, if you're not from the hood. Right? So,
which we have an episode on.
Right, we do.
By the way.
So, we go back and forth. I get the better of him. So, whatever the case is, so I'm like, all right, fine, take the fucking ball. All right, so I turn around to go to walk away. And the guy launches the basketball at the back of my head. Hits me in the back of the head. I turn around and I see red. Now, mind you, the guy's about, at the time, I'm probably 190 pounds.
Yeah.
Still 5'0", 5'5". The guy's probably 5'10", 240. Right?
Okay.
Big dude.
Yeah.
Big ass Irish dude. And but I see red. Like, this guy's getting.
He's getting.
I don't give a fuck how big he is.
He crossed the line.
So I lunge at him. I run at him. Faint like I'm going to throw a hand. He goes to throw a punch. And I double leg him, dump him.
That's awesome.
And I get on the mount. Now, I don't even think I was a blue belt in jiu-jitsu yet.
Okay.
I knew a little bit of jiu-jitsu, but I don't think I was even a blue belt yet. I go to the mount. I'm short. He's a big dude. He's got a bit of a beer gut. Like, the mount probably isn't the position for me.
Understood. At the time, you did.
At the time.
Yeah.
But the stars were aligned. He grabs me and goes to throw me off the mount. I swing for an armbar.
That's awesome.
Not even thinking. Swing for an armbar.
Yeah, just instinctively.
And hips to the heavens. Crack
so you didn't give him a chance to tap?
No, I did. Tap, snap, crack.
All that. Yeah.
I 100 miles an hour, hips forward into his elbow. Snaps his elbow. The guy starts screaming at the top of his lungs. Right, so that's a verbal tap, right?
That's a verbal tap.
So he starts screaming.
Yeah.
I immediately I'm like, fuck, I'm going to get arrested. I'm going to get locked up. So I go and I look. I hope the statute of limitations is passed already. But anyway.
For what?
I don't know. So I look at the guys in the park.
Yeah.
Right? Some of them I knew. Some of them were guys that he knew. And I look at all of them. And I was there on my bike. I had rode my bike to the park that day. I looked at them and I go, none of you motherfuckers saw anything. I remember everyone that was here.
I know everybody.
Right? So
I know where you live.
I said some stupid shit like that.
It's epic, actually.
I jumped on my bike.
That's epic stuff.
And I start just hauling ass away from the park, trying to get out of the neighborhood. And all I heard was, as I got away from the park, the volume of his screams just slowly goes down. But he never stopped screaming.
I get his volume stayed the same. Your distance caused
But now this is, you think about it. Here's a guy, this big dude, gets into a fight with me. He has no idea who I am,
none,
what I know, what I have on me,
what you're willing to do.
We have no social contract. We're not members of the same tribe.
No,
we're not even allies, of two different tribes that know each other.
True.
There is no predetermined set of rules that we've somehow been associated with an agreement upon.
Correct.
In terms of how we're going to fight. Like, it is what it is. He had no fucking idea I knew jiu-jitsu.
None.
He had no idea that I'm going to throw this ball at this fucking guy's head. And about 30 seconds later, my elbow's going to be broken.
Yeah, he did not realize
I'm going to be fucking learning how to wipe my ass with my other hand from now on. But that is what happens when you don't respect reality.
100%.
There's been plenty of times where I've seen guys that I've wanted to maul. But given the situation, it's like, got to respect what's going on.
The bigger picture. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So All right, Patrocles.
Yes.
A real fight.
A real fight.
Break it down.
Okay, so in your preparation for real life, you should be preparing for a real fight. The sports stuff's great. We all train that stuff, at least we do. But there's an edge to it. It's not just, okay, let's do this technique because it works in the cage. We do the technique because it works in the cage, it works in the ring, it works in Fordham and Jerome. That's the idea. So whatever you're preparing to do, violence-wise, make sure it's realistic and make sure you're prepared to take it as far as it needs to go to protect yourself and your family.
Well said. So when I designed the Warrior Continuum, it was really with conversations like these in mind. It was, what exactly do I have to prepare my sons for if I want to prepare them to the best of my ability? Do I want to prepare them for a sport that's going to be regulated by rules and governed by commissions and promotions? Is that what I'm actually looking for when I say I want to make my son a warrior? And it didn't take much to realize that was just not the case. There was just so much more involved. And what was involved was reality, and when I say that MMA is not only within the category of stage 3, but it's just a subset of it. It really makes you look at what exactly I'm using to look at the world of violence. It's a start. Stage 3, and I say this in the Warrior Continuum, is not only practical in stage 3 situations, but it's also a great way to empower and cultivate my stage 1 and stage 2 development. But it is limited. I've been a black belt almost 9 years now in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I've fought professionally. I've had a school, 15 years. All that being said, I don't have a jiu-jitsu move for a guy with a gun, for a guy with a knife, for a guy who's looking to run me over in the street. There are no jiu-jitsu moves for that, let alone MMA moves, right? So if I don't consider those other situations, I am fraudulently adopting an identity of a warrior. A real fight is the only type of fight we should ever be training for. What about an MMA fight? No, in MMA we have matches. We have games. That's not a fight. A fight is a real fight, and it's the only one that matters. Thank you, folks, for listening. Good talk. Great topic. Awesome. I can talk about this shit all day.
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys were here to share it with us. I appreciate you guys spending time with us. You guys know our website, pressureproject.com. The pressureprojectmembers.com is our member site. We need your support. The more you support us, the more we're able to do. Everybody knows the frequency of the episodes has gone down tremendously. That is obviously on purpose. And there's two sides to it. Number one, we're giving everybody a chance to catch up and actually listen to all the episodes we've made, which is a very popular sentiment shared by our members.
Yeah.
But aside from that, it's allowing us the ability, the time and resources to do other projects, which we have begun behind the scenes. I make sure that I'm always on Facebook doing live shows.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff coming.
I'm available. I'm still out and about. But the project is, the Pressure Project is changing levels. In the beginning, the Pressure Project was just a podcast.
Yeah.
Now it is legitimately a movement.
Yeah.
And any of you guys that have been following us for any, amount of time, know that it isn't something you guys have to be sold on. And I'm looking to make the movement more effective and looking to grow the movement in more than one way.
100%, yeah.
And we appreciate you guys supporting us, as we do that. All right, guys. So great episode. We look forward to speaking to you on the next episode. And as always, brothers, pressure to power.